Thank you for joining us for today's Idaho Falls Rotary Club program. My name is Liza Leonard. I'm filling in for our club president, Michelle Holt, who couldn't be with us today. Our club is pleased to be able to provide quality programming through these virtual programs made possible through IE Productions. We are once again in their studio where we can socially distance and keep our speakers safe while you tune in online. I'll mention to you also that this program is available for viewing on Facebook and on IE Productions YouTube channel, both live and after the event. For those of you that are joining us that are not Rotarians, we'd like to just tell you a little bit more about our club before we get to today's program. The Rotary Club is an international service organization with approximately 1.2 million members worldwide. Our motto is service above self. There are a number of regional Rotary clubs. As for the Rotary Club of Idaho Falls, we have been around since 1918. We serve our community and our world through a number of different projects and initiatives. We are always accepting new members, and we would love to have you learn more about our club, so please visit us online. You can go to our Facebook page or our website. We don't really have any club business to share today. Our program chair for this month has been Catherine Smith. She's lined up a wonderful program month, and this is the conclusion of this month themed, Hey Idaho Falls, What's Going On? September's programs included a presentation about the Idaho Falls Downtown Development Corporation, a presentation from the Museum of Idaho, one with Ball Ventures and Snake River Landing, and today we have the pleasure of hearing from Brandy Newton, who is the Executive Director of the Idaho Falls Arts Council, and she is joined by Georgina Goodlander, Visual Arts Director for the Arts Council. Catherine, our program chair, wasn't here to do the introduction, so it's my pleasure to introduce Brandy. Many of you know Brandy. She hardly needs an introduction to this club. She's a very active member of our club, and she's also the notorious leader of one of the most exciting nonprofits in our area, the Idaho Falls Arts Council. If you've had the pleasure of being in the audience at an Arts Council event, you know Brandy by her professionalism and the care she takes at executing the Arts Council's mission. And if you'd had the chance to spend any time with Brandy whatsoever, you treasure her for her authenticity and incredible wit. But to read the actual bio that was provided, I'm going to start into that. Brandy Newton was born and raised in Idaho Falls. After graduating from University of Idaho with a degree in accounting, she landed in Washington at a high-end fishing rod manufacturer, G. Loomis, starting in accounting and progressing to order fulfillment manager before starting her family. Newton and her family relocated back to Idaho Falls in 2007. She began working for the Idaho Falls Arts Council as a part-time accountant in 2010 and was the Auditorium on Broadway project manager before becoming the executive director in July 2013. When not participating in Arts Council events, Brandy can be seen wrangling her son Garrett and identical twin daughters Isabel and Anna Kate, cheering on her racehorse and watching reruns of The West Wing, which is probably very comforting right now. It is my pleasure to turn time over to Miss Brandy Newton.
Thank you, Liza. For the record, I tried to choose heels high enough so that wouldn't have to move the mic if Liza was introducing me. And I think I must employ the smartest and most intelligent people ever of whoever wrote the intro, unless Liza wrote the intro and then she gets all the kudos as well. That makes me sound really cool. I want to hang out with me. So I got to see you all in March, we got to see you all in June, and I was part of Dana Briggs' program talking about what the impact has been on nonprofits. I watched it this morning, mostly to make sure I didn't wear the same shirt, but to recap the optimism that we felt on June 10th versus what's going on now. And I thought I'd throw out some kind of nerd stats. My accounting background finds some comfort in that. Just to recap, since we were here last year, Rotary's been great to let us present the season every year for the last few years, and it's one of the fun days to kind of take the show on the road. Since I was here last year, we were able to celebrate our centennial with some amazing events, from a street party to Kristen Chenoweth on the stage to the most fun party we've ever had as far as dropping confetti and balloons and things to celebrate our 100th. And I don't want to say that was the highlight of the year because we had so many highlights with families, kids, and you hanging out in the theater with us. And hopefully you have amazing memories from that. And then in March, I don't know if you know, but we started a pandemic in our country. And much like you, our world was turned upside down. There's no sugarcoat to it. It pretty much stopped our industry cold as far as our presentation and our ability to present national touring artists on our stage. And since then, it is been, I think, our biggest struggle, as well as now our biggest opportunity to find a way to reinvent our mission of bringing the arts to you, providing you educational as well as inspiring activities surrounding arts to our community. So, but to keep with those kind of stats, to keep it in perspective, the arts and culture industry in the state of Idaho is approximately a $1.9 billion industry. It accounts for about 2.9% of the entire economy of the state of Idaho. It employs normally about 21,000 jobs across the state. So as much as you think we're this little piece, when you really think of the impact from an economic standpoint, it is a big one. When you think about the amount of people that we interact with, the number of events that were on the schedule in March to the end of the year, because let's be real, we don't know that we'll be able to have any participation in the Colonial or in the Civic at normal capacities. But we can estimate those presentations that we would have had about 109 events. Now that's just counting on the stage things happening, not necessarily rehearsals, not any other activities, that would have estimated about 88,000 tickets. 88,000 tickets, so larger than the population of Idaho Falls, that we would have seen, touched, and interacted with, that we are no longer able to do. So what do you do next? We have been on the roller coaster. When we were here in June, I could speak positively that we as an organization sat down and had who are we and what are we about and how do we move forward and how do we continue to serve you? And we put forth a season. We planned out what we were going to do, what we were going to bring, how we were going to entertain you with a really broad range of offerings. We even mailed out beautiful flyers. Hopefully many of you got them in the mail. And what I can tell you behind the scenes is that the day that they went to the printer to be printed was the day that I got the calls that 2 of the first shows in October weren't coming. This is my new game in the office of if I pick up the phone, who's telling me they're not coming. And at first, it's complete and total disappointment. I get to see them and I want to share them with you, and I want you to have those experiences. We as an arts council want you to have that experience. But you can't look an artist in the eye and be upset that when every other venue they were supposed to see in October can't have them for whatever regulation or whatever reason. So in that moment, you mourn for a minute. You try to understand the bigger picture, that this isn't happening just to us. And then what can we do? And how can we move forward to make sure that we can participate with you? In that same time, we were hosting river concerts. Thanks to the Bank of Idaho and several other individual show sponsors, we were having free river concerts until we moved to yellow, and it became evident that we wouldn't be able to control crowd size. We had 2 shows. Those crowds were amazing, but they were probably in excess of 300, 400 people, socially distanced. But when the mask order came through, I didn't have the staff or the ability to enforce that. So what do? Thankfully, we employ amazing, smart, talented, technical savvy folks. Brad Higby with us at the Colonial Theater. We then on a Monday said, well, we can't go to the river on Tuesday, so can we live stream? And the next day we live stream our first river concert, not on the river, from the beautiful car gallery. And that quick, we were able to pivot and find a way that how can we still honor our local artists? How can we still provide to you an experience that's out of your ordinary day to day? And how can we move forward? Well, that process and that experience then has led us to where we're going next. And how we're not able to have a national touring show. We're hoping to hold on to some in the spring, but how can we talk about the immediate need and how can we serve it? So as you know, as a private nonprofit, we are lucky enough to survive on your generosity. Cole, do you want to take me to the next slide? We do not live in a bubble. I'm supposed to be doing that. Live TV. Do I click up or down? Here we go. There it is. We are so grateful to have supporters that care about us and care about our mission. The names, the logos on there are not big corporations. They are people that care about you. They care about us. They care about us being able to keep going forward in the new version of what we can do. So please, I think it's up on the screen, right, guys? So hopefully that will use, if you don't see your name, I'd love to put your name on the slide. But that these are the folks that have sat down that we've been able to talk to that have been longtime supporters of the Arts Council, as well as new ones that said, what can we do and how can we keep this going? Because we want to be a community that can still support the arts. So instead of focusing on all the things we don't get to do, because we'd be here all day, and I mean, if you walk by my office and it's dark and you see a person hunched over their desk crying, that's probably me, because it's difficult. It's hard to adapt to the change. So if any of you are going through that with your business, we're definitely going through that. And then the word that the staff gets annoyed that I use all the time is the word opportunity. So what is our opportunity to do something new, still serve our community, and honor these supporters with art experiences? So one of those things we're still able to participate in is National Theater Live. If you haven't been able to see those before, they are productions from the National Theatre in London that obviously we're running off archive because they're not able to produce new works either. They film a live production, and we can show it anytime we want, within reason. If you missed One Man, Two Governors, sorry. It was hilarious and entertaining, and this is really what put James Corden on the map and won a Tony Award for. But we have several presentations on the horizon. Present Laughter is actually on October 10th. Those normally have been at our MC Theater, which is the former balcony of the Rio Theater upstairs at Auditorium on Broadway. We have moved those to the Colonial so that we have ample room to spread out, plus we miss you all there. We also have amazing technology. The screens, the music is really highlighted well in that facility. So if you haven't seen one before, it is a unique experience. You're watching a movie, but you're watching a movie of a live presentation. And so they might be a little bit different. So we'll show you a clip from an upcoming show or a presentation of Cyrano, in which I'll warn you, most of these are not this is not your mom's version of this play. It's usually reinvented, it's usually reimagined, and sometimes can challenge you that maybe in a way that was unexpected. But we'll let you watch this clip of James McAvoy and Cyrano.
I desire you. I write to you. I write for you. I tear up everything I ever wrote for you or about you. All I can say is I want you, Roxanne.
Right? So James McAvoy, and the accent's amazing, but not necessarily what you would consider your usual presentation of Cyrano. But please take a look at that. Our website is the best place. You noticed I didn't have any dates on that screen. We think we know what days those are happening, but again, we're trying to maintain as much flexibility as possible. So please, if you're not getting our emails, let me know. Really watch for those of what's coming up next. So as part of this pivot game and flexibility, after the success of our river concerts, which I will say most of our river concerts would get about 1,200 views. So we were really excited and happy with that. That really encouraged us to try to find programming. And we talked about before, traditionally our mission has been to bring national touring acts, and that's something that just is not available. So it reminds us of how much talent lives around the corner, hangs out next door to us, and how can we highlight that? So we kicked off our first Live from the Colonial last Thursday night with a local band that I know most of you know and love, with the Optometrists, in which we do invite a small crowd into the theater. We're maxing at about 150. Social distance, got to wear your mask, but we will limit that. You can, for a $5 donation, we'll guarantee your attendance in. because we want to have a little bit of crowd, but we want to make sure and keep it safe. But then also live stream those on Thursdays. So our next presentation of Live from the Colonial will be on the 8th of October with a band called Pioneer 47. We then will follow that with kind of some, not just bands. On the 22nd of October, we're going to do a dance showcase. So there's approximately 4 different dance schools in town that we've invited to join us so that we'll be able to participate in seeing live dance. That is one that we do have some folks that have made their reservation so they can guarantee that they're in that limited capacity. And then we'll round out at least this version of the series on the 5th of November with choirs. So the elite choirs from the local high schools will be joining us so that we can showcase those both in the house and as well as live stream. This is the one perk that, your family member that hasn't been able to see you perform. This is a way that you can participate in that. We're also bringing back a fan favorite of Battle of the Bands. This normally started for us as part of Youth Jam that we would have on the last night of Youth Jam that usually got delayed because of rain or thunderstorms. That seemed to be the MO. A Battle of the Bands for bands that were under 21. It was a really fun event, although what we'd always get in trouble, and these guys know here, Gary knows, when you judge people's children, the parents aren't necessarily really excited when their kid didn't win. So, which is why I or Georgina have never been the judge. So to kind of take the modern technology spin on it, you'll be able to vote from home. So you'll be able to stream that as well as have some in-house. We're going to do 2 nights of that. We figured there was no reason at this date and time to limit that to just under 21 bands. So there'll be 2 nights, hopefully, where you will be able to have under 21 bands and then bands of all ages. That is October 16th and 17th. Now, here's the fun part. Our friends at No Limit Guitar are giving prizes. So the winner of Battle of the Bands both nights would receive a $400 gift certificate, and the Arts Council is matching that with cold, hard cash. So we will be paying the first, second, and third positions with that. And again, what we hope is that it can open up all of our eyes to how much talent is right around. They get about 12 minutes on stage. If you get to watch in-house, it's fun to then watch the tech crew move one band to the next. But we hope that this is a continuation of how we can honor our local arts and keep bringing those experiences into your homes, since we can't have you come and hang out with us. So trying to focus on what you can do instead of what you can't. The Arts Council is still open and moving. And one of the great examples of innovation came this summer with Youth Jam. So as Rotarians, we all know the sad disappointment of not being able to do the duck race, and that the duck race for however many years has been coupled on the same weekend with Youth Jam. Well, we had great plans to social distance, to double up table space, and we had everything in place to be able to do that safely until about 2 weeks before. When it became quickly evident that even if we were able to do it safely, that maybe our patrons wouldn't feel safe. And that feeling sometimes is the guider of how we make decisions. Well, on that weekend, we converted it to what we called Grab and Go Youth Jam. And so with the great help of a lot of volunteers and sponsors and staff, you could have come to the Greenbelt stage there at the corner of Memorial and pick up a bag, not only of all the activities you would have done at each one, but also a supply bag of all the supplies you needed to execute that. Scissors, paint, glue sticks, markers, crayons, all the things that you would need at your home. We were surprised, excited, overwhelmed. We handed out over 2,300 of those projects in 3 days. I haven't stapled or cut that much paper probably in my entire life, and it felt so wonderful to be able to serve our families in our community, and even older folks. They're not just kid projects. But it really then inspired us. And so that's where I've brought with me today Georgina Goodlander. Many of you probably know her. That was her brainchild. Kudos to her staff. I was teasing her in the car on the way over that I don't have a great bio for Georgina. I'll take the credit that I just hire people smarter than me to be on my staff, to take care of the really important things. I tease her a lot that anything that hangs on the wall is Georgina's responsibility. And we have a lot of wall space in both auditorium and at the Willard Arts Center. So I'm going to turn time over to Georgina, and she'll walk you through the active things going on in the galleries and auditorium.
Thanks, and good afternoon. So I'm going to talk first about the different exhibitions that we have on view at the Willard Arts Center. We do have 2 visual art galleries there right next to the Colonial that are still open Monday through Friday. Currently, we have... Oh. Sorry, learning the thing. Upstairs in the Hall Gallery, we have an exhibition of works by Yidan Guo. She is a fabulous artist, originally from China, currently lives in Blackfoot, Idaho. I think Idaho is very, very lucky to have her. I learned about her from her work in the juried exhibition at the Willard Arts Center and asked her to do a solo show. And I will say, if you can come and check this one out. It is one of my absolute favorite exhibitions I've ever installed there. She uses traditional Chinese painting and traditional Chinese materials, and her work is spectacular. So that's currently on view. And I should mention too that this week is our final gallery walk of the season. We have been doing our gallery walks through the summer, very safely, social distanced, masks whenever you cannot social distance, and there's lots of space in the Willard Arts Center to spread out and enjoy the artwork with a glass of wine. So that is this Thursday, 5 till 8 p.m. So Idan is upstairs in the Hall Gallery. Downstairs in the Car Gallery, we have our regular Idaho Watercolor Society show. They have been exhibiting every fall in the Car Gallery since before my time. What I love about the group is the last few years they've been challenging themselves with different themes every year, so it brings a little bit more interest to the show. This year their theme was black and white, which if you've ever painted in watercolor, that is particularly challenging. So it's a really interesting show to see how all these different artists have worked in black and white, and they are all local to the region, so lots of familiar names in that show. Following those exhibitions, we will have Gallery 12 in the Car Gallery opening in November. This is a group of 12 Eastern Idaho artists who work in a variety of mediums. It is by invitation only that you get to be part of this group, but some very familiar local artists in there, including Gloria Miller-Allen, Linda Amon, Marianne Cherry, Roy Reynolds, and others, and these are just a couple of examples of their work. Also in November, opening in the Hall Gallery, is a solo show by Christine Fortner. Christine was raised in Maryland and has lived in Arizona and Alaska before moving to Idaho Falls a few years ago to be with her family. And so this work is a lot about her first impressions of Idaho Falls when she moved here, so I think there'll be a lot of interest in that one. Following those, we have Jacob Seacrest up in the Hall Gallery, opening in January. And he is another local artist, teaches at ISU. He always enters the juried exhibition, always gets in, and has regularly won awards. That's how I discovered him. After he moved to the Idaho side of the Tetons, he has created a lot of work inspired by the local area, but he also paints everything, still lifes, portraits, landscapes, and it's just a beautiful style. Then, at that same time, opening in January in the Car Gallery is a show that I've put together on digital art, and I'm very excited about this one. I've gathered 4 different artists from across Idaho who all use digital technology in different ways, whether it's manipulated photographs, working in digital painting apps on the iPad, or kind of a combination of real and digital media. Those 4 artists will explore that in different ways. So that should be a really interesting show in the Car Gallery in the winter. Following both of those, in March, we'll open our 13th National Juried Exhibition, which we do in both galleries, open for 3 months, and that is we invite artists from across the country to submit. I think we've had entries from almost 30 states. My goal is obviously to hit all 50 at some point, but we usually receive between 200 and 400 entries to this exhibition. It is a big deal. We have a different juror every year that is tasked with selecting the 50 or 60 pieces that we include in the show, and this year we just selected our juror. I try and pick somebody different every year with a different background who'll bring a different perspective to the selection process. And so this year, for the first time ever, we will be having a local art teacher, Christopher Hull, who is the art teacher at Skyline, who just won Art Educator of the Year award. So I think he'll bring a fabulous perspective to the process. And then finally, next summer, when we all hope everything will be back to normal, we will have a solo show by Marilyn Henson in the Car Gallery. Many of you may be familiar with Marilyn. She's a local artist, very, very well known, very well respected. She's exhibited at the Smithsonian, huge body of work. She's very well known for her paintings and sculptures of horses, but this exhibition is going to be titled Daughters of Eve and will be about her paintings and drawings of the female form. So warning, there will be some nudity in this one. And then finally, up in the whole gallery next summer is a solo show by Mel Edmondson. She was actually a high school teacher here in Idaho Falls for over a decade. She moved away to Tennessee a few years ago, but she says that her heart remains in Idaho, and she was really enthusiastic to have a show here. And her work is all about the natural world, and particularly the landscape of Idaho and the surrounding areas. So that one should be fascinating. Okay, so that kind of rounds up my season of exhibitions in the galleries. Just to talk a little bit about Auditorium and to expand on what Brandy mentioned with our Grab and Go Youth Jam, we were beyond thrilled that Grab and Go Youth Jam was received so well. We were so happy to be able to do something for the community rather than just canceling the event. And the hours that I spent down on the Greenbelt handing out bags, the resounding feedback that I got from parents were how grateful they were that we could do this for them. So we kind of thought about how can we expand that beyond Youth Jam. We were happy that Auditorium was able to reopen to the public after the lockdown in June, and we have been open since then. We're obviously limiting capacity, and we have kind of health and safety procedures in place. And we have been seeing people come, and it's been great. But it is not up to our usual numbers. Obviously, there are a lot of people, a lot of families, a lot of people who still feel very cautious about going out, and especially going to an indoor space and participating in something like Auditorium. So we wanted to do something for them. So we've kind of taken the grab and go concept and added it to everything that we do. If you've been to Auditorium, you'll know that we have different monthly themes. So every month that you visit the center, we have completely new projects based around a theme. So for example, September's theme was pirates. All of our projects were pirates themed. As of tomorrow, we're moving into Ag October, and all of our projects will be agriculture based. But now, if you don't want to come to Auditorium in person, you can purchase a grab and go bag for just $3 that will have all of the projects for you to do at home. And all of the supplies that you need. And as a parent of small children, even though I feel pretty experienced in the arts and crafts area, having that package of pre-prepared supplies is amazing. I've been doing them with my kids. Like, we pre-cut everything. It's everything you need. You don't have to spend hours on Pinterest finding your project or kind of dig around the craft closet to find the pieces that you need. We've cut out the strips of paper. We've stapled them together. We've given you everything that you need. And it really is amazing. So that is one concept we've developed, and they've been going extremely well. And we'll be adding to that with holiday-themed bags. We'll be rolling out our Halloween bag soon. If you want to get your Halloween craft projects on, there should be one for Thanksgiving and Christmas too. And then we also, because we do teach art classes too, we have monthly 4-week art classes that have been going extremely well, and we still have people participating in those. But we wanted to offer a take-home version of that as well. So you can now get your grab-and-go art class in a box, which is a more expensive, more in-depth experience. It really takes you through 4 lessons. The instructions are incredible, the materials are high quality, and then you get interaction back and forth with our art teacher as well, as she can provide feedback on the work that you're doing. Our Harvest Fest was last weekend. Usually that is a kind of mini youth jam with booths and activities and all kinds of craziness outside Auditorium on Shoup Avenue. Obviously, this year we couldn't do it in quite the same way, so we grab and go'd that too. And we had about 600 people come and get packets on Saturday for Harvest Fest. So very happy that we're able to offer different things for people's different comfort levels as we all kind of navigate this pandemic together. We are now, our next step is working with teachers in the local school districts to figure out what kind of field trip experience we can offer. Is it virtual? Is it a field trip in a box? Or how can we safely bring groups of students to the space? We have had a couple of field trips come through, and we feel confident we can do those safely. But we want to work with teachers to make sure we can provide whatever they need right now. So yeah, I think that's everything that we're doing over at Auditorium. Should I hand it back to Brandy?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
She has to say to hand it back to me, right? So I had a couple a couple of questions, not questions for you, questions for me, I think. One of the questions was, how can we stay up to date and what's going on with shows? We have shows on sale. If you received our postcard, what we were doing was selling you a reservation. So we're putting you in line. Traditionally, seat owners got to have their seats first, and we had this elaborate day of making sure you got to sit where you wanted to sit in the theater. And that's just not possible. We don't know whether or not when that show happens in January, what the restrictions will be on placing you. So we're selling you a reservation. It holds your place in line so that a few weeks before, when we know what restrictions or lack of restrictions are going on, we'd be able to place you in those seats. For any shows or any reservations you've purchased, we would have been in contact to say it's moving to this date, it's going to that date. Obviously, we're very open to exchange, return. We have a lot of users that had gift certificates from the spring that have been using those to buy tickets for the future. So we'll continue with that very flexible hold your place in line model until we know for sure what can happen. Our website's the best to keep up with that. If you making sure we have your email when you buy a ticket so that we can keep you up to date. And we're trying to make a lot of phone calls. We miss all of you, so we want to talk and have those conversations. The other was membership. I mentioned when I was rewatching the presentation in June that we talked about membership with the Arts Council and its importance. In the past, it's a fine line of we never wanted to threaten you that hey, if you guys don't all become members, we'll go away. But there's some elements of truth to that. Our ability to make sure that our building's maintained, that we are as flexible as possible to do what it is we do, requires the community to believe in us. We are a private nonprofit, which means that less than 5% of what our income level is comes from any sort of government support. And that is an ICA grant, various ICA grants, and some support from the city of Idaho Falls. That's small when you consider the size of what we do and what we always hope to do. So why would you become a member of the Arts Council if you're not having any shows? Well, we do a lot of other things. As Georgina pointed out, our galleries are amazing. Our last show, we sold several pieces. As a member, you get a discount on those. If you're a family that's going to Artatorium, members receive a discount in going to Artatorium. Members right now, it puts you first in line, so when those shows come through. But really, it's the emotional ask. It's that you're a member of the Arts Council because you care about us being able to do this in the long term so that we can serve the neighbor maybe you don't know, the school kid you maybe didn't know, that's really where those dollars go. The other was that we celebrated 100 years. What did we learn from celebrating the anniversary? It was really emotional. You guys know this about me. I try to play like I'm, the cool, calm executive director. I'm not. That's all a facade. So it was really emotional to think of how much energy and emotion had gone into making sure that theater survived. It had gone through a lot of versions of itself, from being a live theater to a movie theater. I think what I learned is that it actually spent more time as a movie theater in its history than it has as a live performing arts center. And so that is inspiring to us to try to flip those numbers, to keep it as live performances. It reminds you of how people care about you, and that they want to see us in the long term, and how impactful we've been on people's lives. The memories that people have had in those buildings, and that connection that they felt with each other. What I learned, I'd always heard the story, and I'm sure I've shared it with all of you, of the show that had to be split because the balcony was going to fall down. Maybe that wasn't publicized in the 90s, but we talk about it now. And why did that happen? Well, when they converted it from a live performing theater to a movie theater, they needed to cut the balcony back so that they could put the projection in so that you could get the projector far enough back from the screen. They literally walked in and cut the front off, and hence how our capacity went from a 1,400 seat theater to a 1,000 seat theater. Well, they just cut the front off. They didn't reinforce it with a beam. They didn't put any pillars up to hold it up. So for a really long time, like 60 years, that balcony would have been one that if you would have got the right amount of people jumping and jiving and wailing, that it could have collapsed onto the lower level. that to me then cracked two codes. One, why was the balcony needed to be resupported in the 90s? And also, how did we have 1,400 people ever fit in that building? So that to me are like the fun kind of documentation of what has gone on in the building. And the last question I had was that they knew that we had an endowment. What do we know about it? As part of our centennial year, our goal was to try to get $1 million into our endowment. Why did we pick the number? The goal at that point in time was, how can we have an endowment, an investment account that would generate enough income each year to cover the hard expenses of the Willard Arts Center? I joke a lot that I figured if the Arts Council ever got in trouble, it's because I booked a show that was really bad and we lost a lot of money. How then do we protect to make sure that the Colonial Theater, the Auditorium on Broadway, that those things that really you as a community bought for us, you are the one who gifted to make them available. How do we protect those to make sure that regardless of what silly decisions I may make or the board may make, I got a couple board members in the room, so I'll pull them in on that. How do we make sure the community always has the Colonial, that it doesn't go to a place where it can't be used? And the same with Auditorium on Broadway, that those buildings and facilities that you all helped us pay for would always be available. So by putting that money into the endowment, it would generate enough to cover the basic maintenance. As you can imagine, a theater of our size, I think I've got 13 HVAC units. And so something's always not working. I've got old copper pipes. We've got just basics to keep it clean. Just to clean the windows every year is a task. So the endowment really was to try to build that nest egg so that we never had to worry, that the community of Idaho Falls would always have the theater and auditorium available to them. Our endowment is housed at the Idaho Community Foundation. We're very happy with how they keep track of that. It allows us in-house, instead of managing our own endowment, it allows us to focus on the mission. How can we continue to serve you and keep the priority of our current operating dollars going towards that? And so we'd love for you to make a contribution to the endowment. That is something that I think long-term is how we will be able to continue to weather storms like this. In our current situation, I've need to make the ask. We need you to be members. We need you to buy your reservation for a show that you may not see for 18 months. And the hope is that you see in us and the different offerings we're pivoting to continue to enhance your life. We really want to be that resource. We want you to see us as the organization that you don't know what you're supposed to do with XYZ. You don't know where you should do this weekend. What can we do? We want to be that organization that you can call or go to their website to see, how can we do this? How can we get out, and how can we experience these activities? Any other questions, Liza? Okay. Well, thanks for having me back. Round 2. I hope next time we hang out, it's all about clips of what cool things. I didn't show you any clips of the upcoming season because if you don't see it for 18 months, I don't want you to go, haven't I seen that show already? So we'll keep a little bit of mystery alive and hope that you're all staying safe, and that as soon as it's safe for you to come and be with us, you can be with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Brandy. Thank you, Georgina. Really appreciate hearing an update on the organization. I am a board member, so I do get a little bit of an insight into how this organization has adjusted under Brandy's leadership, and with an incredible staff and group of volunteers, board members, community sponsors, and the audience, all the members, all of you that continue to support the arts and make the Arts Council be able to weather this incredibly difficult storm. So thank you again for your leadership, Brandy. Thank you for your time today and the presentation that you put forward. We do invite you to join us, Rotarians, next week, October 7th. We will be doing a club Zoom meeting. So please check your email for information on that, or reach out to one of the members of the board if you need more information. We thank you for joining us for today's Idaho Falls Rotary program. Have a great week.